Stop scrolling for a second, because that $1,976 to $3,559 headline can fool you fast. If you assume it's automatic, you could miss money you're actually owed, or plan your budget on a number you'll never see. There's one overlooked detail that decides whether this is a real boost for you, or just noise. This affects retirees, future retirees, and families depending on a survivor or spousal check right now. Hit subscribe like you're locking the door before you go to sleep. Not because you're scared, but because you like being early. These updates move quickly, and staying ahead is how you protect your benefits. If you want the calm version of the truth, stay with me here. Let's get you grounded first, because the internet loves one thing: big numbers with no context. A bill gets mentioned, a rumor spreads, and suddenly everyone's doing math on a napkin. My job in this video is to guide you through what the increase claim could mean, who it's really for, and how to check yourself. And yes, I'll show you how those numbers can be created without you needing a finance degree. But we're also going to talk about what can go wrong and how scammers use these headlines as bait. Here's the promise. By the end, you'll know the few categories of people who might truly see a jump. You'll know what qualify usually means in this conversation and what doesn't count. You'll know what to look for in your own history that changes everything. And I'll reveal that one small, easy-to-miss detail that most people skip, which decides the outcome. Keep watching, because the last section is the part that keeps you from making the costly mistake. Quick reset. We're not here to argue politics or chase hype. We're here to protect your household plan. So anytime you hear new bill and Social Security increase in the same sentence, you should mentally split it into 3 questions. Is it actually passed? Is it actually funded? And is it actually written to include you? Those are 3 different doors, and a lot of people stop at the first one. Now, about that $1,976 and $3,550. You'll see those figures thrown around like a before and after photo. But numbers like that usually come from averages and hypothetical replacement rates, not a guarantee for everyone. Think of it like saying, the average car payment is X, then claiming you'll automatically get that payment. Your benefit is built from your record, your work history, and sometimes your household situation. So, what kind of bill are people talking about when they use language like fairness and increases? Often, it's tied to a policy change that affects a smaller slice of beneficiaries who have a pension from work that didn't pay into Social Security. That group can include certain public workers, and in some situations it affects spouses or survivors too. The whole idea is that some people feel a formula reduced their Social Security in a way that didn't reflect what they paid in. If a change removes or softens that reduction, their monthly check can rise. But notice what I did there. I said there. That's the first clarity moment. Not every retiree is in that category. Many people hearing the headline are regular Social Security beneficiaries with no non-covered pension involved at all. For them, the claim of nearly doubling is usually a misunderstanding, not a hidden jackpot. Here's the second clarity moment. Do you qualify? Rarely means, did you retire? It usually means you're in a specific situation where a certain rule applied to you. So instead of asking, am I old enough, you ask, was my benefit reduced because of a pension situation or because I'm a spouse or survivor tied to one? That's why 2 neighbors can have the same age, the same birthday month, and totally different answers. And that's why the same headline hits one household like a storm, and another household feels nothing. Now I'm going to tease that overlooked detail I mentioned, because it shows up everywhere. It's not your age. It's not the year you filed. It's whether the Social Security system has the correct, complete picture of your pension situation and your covered earnings history. One tiny mismatch in records can turn a real increase into pending, under review, or we can't compute this yet. Let's walk through the basic logic of how these benefit numbers are born. You earn wages, you pay in over time, and your benefit is calculated from your record. The calculation tries to replace a portion of your prior earnings with different portions applied to different slices of income. That's why lower earners can see a higher percentage replaced, while higher earners often see a lower percentage replaced. This isn't a moral judgment, it's the design of the formula. Where the controversy usually enters is when someone has two income streams later, a pension and Social Security, especially if part of their career was in a job that didn't pay Social Security taxes. Then a separate rule can reduce the Social Security amount, based on the idea that the formula would otherwise overcredit them. Whether you agree or disagree with that idea, it's the practical trigger behind many fairness bill conversations. So a bill that changes that rule can raise checks for that specific group. Attention reset. If you've ever had a pension letter in your hands, lean in. If you've never had a pension, don't click away. Because even without a pension, these headlines still matter to you for planning and for scam safety. And there's a second group that gets pulled into this: spouses and survivors. That's where a lot of people get blindsided. Let's talk about who should pay the closest attention. If you worked in a mix of jobs, some paying into Social Security and some not, you're on the radar. If you receive a pension from a job where Social Security taxes were not taken out, you're on the radar. If your spouse had that kind of pension situation and you're relying on a spouse or survivor benefit, you're also on the radar. And if you have no idea whether your job paid into Social Security, you're exactly who needs the next step. Here's the step-by-step check in everyday terms. Look at old pay stubs, W-2 forms, or your current pension paperwork, and see whether Social Security taxes were withheld in those years. If you can't access the paperwork, you can still learn a lot by reviewing your earnings history and the type of retirement system you were in. Then, look at your current Social Security award letter language, because it often hints when a reduction was applied. And if any of that is unclear, you verify through official channels by calling back using the published number, not a number someone texts you. Because scammers love this moment. They'll tell you there's a new increase, then they'll offer to activate it. They'll ask for a code, a bank login, or a one-time passcode to verify identity. Never share codes, never click unknown links, never trust caller ID, and never let urgency push you into handing over access. If it's real, it will still be real after you call back using the official number. Now let's handle the big emotional trap, the word increase. An increase can mean your future monthly amount goes up. It can also mean you receive a catch-up payment for prior months, if the change is retroactive. Or it can mean only a certain subset of people are recalculated, while everyone else sees no change at all. So when you see 3,159, the real question is, increase for whom, and based on what record? Here's a clean way to think about the math using an example that is not your situation, but shows the mechanism. Imagine someone's current benefit is $1,800 per month because a reduction rule applied. If that rule is removed for them and the recalculation moves them to $2,400 per month, that's a $600 monthly difference. Over 12 months, $600 times 12 is $7,200 in missed payments that might be paid as a lump sum if allowed. But the exact timing and eligibility depends on the final policy details, and you should verify any retroactive window through official notices. Now another example, because a lot of people only think about their own check, not the household check. Say a surviving spouse currently receives $1,300 per month, but it's reduced because of a pension-related offset rule. If a change removes that offset for them, and the benefit becomes $1,900 per month, that's $600 more per month too. If 6 months were affected, $600 times 6 is $3,600 potentially owed, again depending on what's actually adopted. That's real money, but it's not everyone gets it, and it's not overnight. Do you want me to help you spot which category you're in by the end of this video? Good, because now we're going to address the confusion that keeps people stuck. A lot of viewers hear average check and assume it's a baseline that will be multiplied for everyone. But averages hide the spread. Some people receive much less, some receive much more, and most are in between, based on their own record. So if a video tells you the average is X, so yours should be Y, treat that like entertainment until proven otherwise. Here's the myth versus truth moment in a way that protects you. Myth: if a bill passes, your payment changes immediately and automatically. Truth: changes can take time to implement, and some require recalculations that happen in waves. Myth: if you qualify, you must file a special form fast. Truth: sometimes it's automatic, And sometimes it requires you to correct a record. But anyone pushing you to act through a random message is a red flag. Remember that overlooked detail I teased earlier? Here's a fresh way to say it. The system can only fix what it can see. If your pension information, employment history, or identity verification steps are incomplete or inconsistent, you can get delayed. Even worse, you can get a wrong recalculation that takes months to unwind. So the safest approach is not hype, it's clean records and careful verification. Now let's talk about the "do you qualify" part in a way you can actually use. Qualification usually depends on whether a certain reduction was applied to you in the first place. If you never had the reduction, removing it doesn't change your benefit. If you did have it, removing it can change your benefit. But the amount depends on your own covered earnings and your pension situation. And if you're a spouse or survivor, it depends on the interaction between your pension and your family benefit. This is also why two people can both be teachers or both be firefighters and still have different outcomes. Different states, different retirement systems, different time periods, and different mixes of covered and non-covered employment. So don't let someone's comment section convince you with, "I got mine, so you'll get yours." Your friend's result is not your proof. Your record is your proof. Attention reset. We're about to get practical, not theoretical. I'm going to show you the most common mistakes people make when these headlines drop and how to avoid them kindly. No shame, because these systems are complicated and the rumors are loud, but one mistake can cost you time, stress, and sometimes money. Let's keep you out of that trap. One common mistake is believing the biggest number you hear, then budgeting around it. People start making commitments, signing leases, buying cars, or helping family based on an expected jump. Then the increase doesn't apply to them, or it applies later than they assumed, and now the household is squeezed. Treat any increase as unconfirmed until you see it in your official benefit communication. Hope is fine, but bills require certainty. Another common mistake is giving personal information to helpers who suddenly appear. You'll see ads, messages, and calls offering to process your increase. They'll ask for your social security number, your bank routing number, or a code texted to your phone. That code is a key, and once you hand it over, it can unlock your accounts. You protect yourself by slowing down and calling back through an official channel. Another mistake is assuming your direct deposit and address are already correct forever. If you moved, changed banks, or had mail issues, you might miss an important notice or verification step. Even when things are automatic, communication still matters. So part of being ready for any recalculation is making sure the basics are accurate. That's not paperwork for paperwork's sake. It's how you receive what's yours. Another mistake is confusing a proposed change with a final change. A lot of content online talks like everything is settled the moment something makes headlines. But proposals can change, timelines can move, and implementation can lag. So if you're watching this, your best move is to follow the process, not the noise. Wait for official confirmation before you treat anything as guaranteed. And a fifth mistake is ignoring how taxes and other deductions can change what you actually receive. Even if your gross benefit increases, your net deposit can still surprise you. Medicare premiums, withholding choices, and other deductions can shift. So when an increase happens, you don't just look at the headline number. You compare what lands in your account. That's the real-world result that matters to your budget. Now we move to an "if this is you" moment, so you can self-identify quickly. If this is you, and you worked one career with Social Security taxes taken out the whole time, this bill talk might not raise your check at all. But you still need to be careful, because scammers will target you anyway, and misinformation can wreck your planning. Your best action is to verify what changes, if any, are confirmed for your type of benefit. And you keep your personal information locked down, even if the caller sounds confident. If this is you, and you have a pension from work where Social Security wasn't withheld, you should pay closer attention, because your benefit may have been reduced by a rule that could be changed by a policy update. Your best action is to gather your pension details, understand whether the reduction applied, and monitor for official recalculation notices. And don't assume you must apply through a third party. Official channels are the safe path. That one overlooked detail about clean records matters most for you. If this is you and you're a spouse or survivor relying on a family benefit, Don't assume the rules are identical to retirement benefits. Family benefits can interact with pension rules in ways that feel unfair and confusing. A change can sometimes help this group, sometimes not, depending on the exact wording and your circumstances. Your best action is to confirm what benefit type you receive and how it was calculated, then verify if any reduction was applied. And stay to the end, because the payoff detail I promised is especially important for spouses and survivors. Here's another attention reset. We're halfway through, and now we get tactical. You're going to stop thinking in headlines and start thinking in checkpoints, because the goal isn't to win an argument online. The goal is to get the correct money to the correct person safely without getting tricked. Let's move into the what to do today part. But first, let's talk about timing, because timing is where hope can turn into frustration. Even when a change is real, agencies and systems have to update calculations and process large volumes. That can mean months, not days. And if retroactive payments are involved, they can arrive separately from the new monthly amount. So you plan for the current reality and treat any catch-up as a bonus until it's confirmed. Now remember how I said there's one overlooked detail that decides a lot of this? Here's the third tease. In a new way, most people focus on the bill, but the bill doesn't know who you are. Your benefit file is what identifies you. If your file doesn't clearly show the pension details or the right employment history, you can get skipped in an automated recalculation. So the quiet power move is making sure your information is accurate before the wave hits. Are you watching this because you want the increase? Or because you want certainty you can plan around? And let's do this today, calmly and in order, without making it your whole week. Pull up your most recent benefit letter or statement and read the benefit type you're receiving. Write down whether it's your own retirement benefit, a spouse benefit, a survivor benefit, or a mix. Then confirm your direct deposit and mailing address are current, because missing a notice creates delays. Finally, if you have a pension tied to non-covered work, gather a recent pension statement so you can answer questions accurately if asked through official channels. Now let's address what those doubling style claims are usually based on. Sometimes, someone takes an average benefit number and compares it to a different replacement scenario. They'll say, if everyone got the higher replacement rate, the average would be this bigger number. That's a thought experiment, not a policy guarantee. So if you hear your check should be $3,559, your next question is, based on what rule and who exactly does it apply to? If you're wondering why I'm being so careful, it's because I respect your trust. I won't tell you a specific dollar increase is guaranteed unless it is confirmed and applicable to your category, and even then, your exact amount depends on your record. So the safest approach is to focus on what you can control, identifying your category, keeping your info accurate, and watching for official confirmation. That's how you stay ahead without getting whiplash from every headline. Let's do one more quick math example, because it helps you spot hype immediately. If someone tells you your benefit goes from $1,976 to $3,559, that's an increase of $1,583 per month. Over 1 year, $1,583 times 12 is $18,996. That's huge, which is exactly why you should demand clarity on eligibility and implementation before believing it. Big claims deserve slow thinking, not fast excitement. Now let's talk about the emotional trick that gets smart people too. When money is tight, an increased story feels like relief, so your brain wants it to be true. That's not weakness. That's human. Scammers know that, and they time their calls and messages around news cycles. So you protect yourself by making one rule: no action from emotion, only action from verification. We're going to close the loop on that missing detail soon, but I want to set you up to understand it when it lands. There are two kinds of problems: the law problem and the record problem. Even if the law changes in your favor, a record problem can still block the money. So the people who win fastest are not always the loudest. They're the most organized. And you can be organized without being overwhelmed. Attention reset. If you've made it this far, you're doing what most people don't. You're staying long enough to get clarity instead of clips. Now we're entering the section that keeps you from losing months to confusion. This is where you become the person who knows what to ask and what not to share. Let's finish strong. Here's what you should ask when you talk to an official representative or when you review your paperwork. You ask whether any pension-related reduction was applied to your benefit. You ask whether your benefit is subject to a recalculation if rules change and how you will be notified. You ask what documentation is needed only if they request it, and you confirm where to send it using verified contact information. And you ask about timelines in general terms, understanding they may not be able to promise a date. Now, that overlooked detail most people miss is this: the benefit type and the reduction type are not interchangeable. People assume a change for one category automatically fixes every category, including spouses and survivors. But the system often treats them differently, and the triggers are different. So you must know what benefit you receive, and whether the reduction applied to that benefit specifically. That one distinction is the difference between real money and endless waiting. Here's how you pay it off in your own life, without guessing. If you receive your own retirement benefit only, you verify whether any reduction was applied to your retirement calculation. If you receive a spouse or survivor benefit, you verify whether a reduction applied to that family benefit, not just your own retirement benefit. If you receive both, you verify each one separately, because the system can treat them as separate streams. That's the detail that most people miss, and it's why so many families talk past each other online. Do you want me to make a follow-up where I walk through the exact questions to ask for your specific benefit type? Now let's recap in clear terms, because clarity is how you keep control. The headline numbers you're seeing are not universal promises. They're often tied to a policy change that affects a narrower group, especially people with certain pension situations or certain family benefit interactions. Qualification is not about hope. It's about whether a reduction applied to you and whether the change includes your category. And the safest path is verification through official channels, not random messages, not ads, not urgent calls. Here's the consequence: confusion, clarity, action rhythm one last time so it sticks. Consequence: believing the wrong claim can wreck your budget or expose you to scams. Confusion: the rules sound like they apply to everyone, but they usually don't. Clarity: your category and your record decide your outcome, and you can identify both. Action: verify your benefit type, confirm whether a reduction applied, keep your contact and deposit info current, and never share codes or click unknown links. One final warning, and then I'll leave you with control. When big benefit headlines hit, scammers don't wait for the policy to be real before they try to steal from you. But the hopeful line is this: you don't need to be an expert to be safe and prepared. You just need a calm checklist, clean records, and the discipline to verify before you act. So tell me, what benefit are you on right now? And what are you hearing about this increase that you want me to untangle?